advisor to two popes, lifelong Catholic, priest, exorcist, maybe the exorcist. There are others. Here once again is Father Malachi Martin. Father, welcome back.
Thank you.
I've got a really hard question I'm going to ask you, hard for me. But first I want to ask you, in previous programs you and I have done, we have talked not just about people possessed requiring exorcisms, but people in a different category, people that you have called perfectly possessed.
That's right.
Now, frequently these people are very successful, have a great deal of money and influence and power.
Usually, yeah.
Usually, yes. And there are many of them, and you said when you walk down the street, you know them when you see them.
Yes, you always do. They know you.
They know you?
Yeah.
In what manner would you know this person? Can you put words to it?
No, it's one thing you can't put words to it, but it's the unseen signals. It's like you sense that they sense you are both totally alien to each other. Totally alien to each other.
So you definitely...
It's beyond hate. Sorry for interrupting you. It's beyond hate even. It's a total alien. Nothing in common at all. And it's not a teeth-gritting, shivering thing. No, it's not. It's. I don't know if ever in your life, Art, you were in imminent danger of being killed, not of dying. A lot of people have, like myself, with a heart attack, two heart attacks, etc. That's of dying, but of being killed. And there were only two times in my life, which we can talk about some other time, and not to be divagate the conversation too much, when I could have been killed. Literally.
Right.
But then when you are in that, when it's certain that unless something happens, you are going to be killed, a strange calm comes over you. Because then it's sure.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't escape.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get out of it. And unless something happens, you're going to be killed. Literally, you're not going to die. You're going to be killed. And it's a strange calmness. It's cold reality. And it's beyond the shivering cold. It's just, that's the feeling you have when you recognize them and they recognize you. You know there's cold reality, and it's beyond hate. It's total alienation.
Okay, the perfectly possessed person, if I understood correctly your explanation before, is a person who, in fact, has made a pact with the devil.
The ultimate.
To be successful, to get what he wants in the world, whatever reason, maybe even to get a woman. Who knows for what reason he's made a pact with the devil.
That doesn't make him perfectly possessed. It just puts him in possession. Perfect possession is something beyond that even.
But I mean, he's utterly satisfied with his deal.
Completely.
The reason I ask is as follows. I have been in the radio business for 25, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like many people in radio, for many of the early years, I struggled and, about half-starved to death like people do in radio. I mean, that's the way it is.
Of course.
And it's been a passion for me, without question.
Great.
And like everybody else, or maybe unlike so many others, I have been very fortunate, and in recent years, my career has just, skyrocketed.
That's right. It has. Thank God.
Yep, thank God. But I've got to tell you, I don't ever recall any time that I said that I'd give anything, I'd give my soul, or anything like that. I don't recall a time like that.
No, I'm sure you didn't.
But since I've had this much success,
yes,
There have been some times, particularly, I must say, since I heard you describe the perfectly possessed,
Yes.
when I have worried, did I do something mentally? Did I make some pact that I'm not consciously recalling? I worry constantly. It's like,
yeah. Let me make a remark about that. Perfect possession is consequent on a very conscious step, consciously taken step. It's not something that's implicit. To contrast, to make a contrast, we now get young people, 20-somethings or 30-somethings in age, and they do come and say, look, I made a pact with the devil because I needed this job, I needed this woman, I really wanted to marry her, and I wanted to get this job abroad, and I want to get this loan, and etc. Right. And now I can't get rid of it. That's something else. They were simply very stupid and foolish, and generally they can be helped. And it's a thing they regret. The perfectly possessed, through a certain graduation, it's a gradual thing. It's not suddenly overnight. The devil doesn't appear in the morning with a scroll and say, sign this and your 50 years of happiness, and then you come to hell with me. The Faustian picture, Aristophanes.
Yeah, Hollywood.
That's right, and Goethe's play, Faust. It's not that. It's a gradual thing where the person slowly but surely concedes, surrenders their will, every fiber of their will, and therefore of their being, and acquiesce totally in it, and are rewarded by their master, and utterly conscious. There's nothing implicit about it. There's nothing. It isn't slid by them.
You're saying I would know it if that was.
Oh yes, you'd know it a mile away. You'd know it a mile away.
I think that it is a malady suffered by many people who are successful. They don't fully understand the nature of their success, and sometimes it seems like there are other forces at work. In other words, you question your own success, and that's one of the things, ever since talking to you, that I've been worried about.
Yeah, no, actually, you see, there's no doubt about it that the evil around us, because there is evil around us as well as good, does make inroads in us through pride and vanity and desire and ambition and lust, etc.
Yep.
All those things, and those make inroads in us, and that does prick our conscience. There's no doubt about that. But the total surrender and acceptance of Luciferian being, because that's what takes place in the perfectly possessed, that is something that cannot be done implicitly or overnight or by accident or be slipped into your life without you knowing it. Oh, no.
Huh.
No.
Huh. I think it's... You struggle, you know, a lot of people are just hearing this show and me for the first time think, an overnight success. Well, I'm an overnight success that's been at it for about 30 years. of overnights. Nevertheless, though, the real success did come recently in the last couple of years, and it has been absolutely astounding, and I really, really have been worried.
Well, Art, that is... I mean, look, from my vantage point, looking on the outside in at you, it seems to be the logical progression of a very devoted and intelligent career in radio, and you've reached a culmination. Now, there's this part about it. Nobody achieves the amount of affiliated associates that you have, and the name you've got. Nobody reaches that without a special destiny from Christ, because not everybody does it. And you have a profound influence on millions, and that means that you, from this point of view, as a radio man, that you are working on universal lines that affect the macro government of people's souls. And that's a responsibility. It really is.
I know.
That for me is that's the telling point that sure, somebody can work like a dog, work the little bottom off, as they say, and not get to where you are, but you got there, and that was because your destiny was that you were to do that, given your talents and given your will and given the opportunities which were given to you.
Obsession would be a good word. I'm obsessed with what I do. I love it.
Yeah, I know. Well, obsession, since we're talking in the context of exorcism, obsession is a very professional word with us. So I wouldn't use it about it at all. I'd say you're utterly devoted, and because obsessed is something else.
Close to possessed, huh?
Yeah. Obsessed in that good sense, yeah. Not even in the Calvin Klein meaning obsession. If I could make a joke, sort of a joke.
Yes, I could use a joke.
Yes, but I know it's a question of destiny. De facto, your destiny before you were born, before you were conceived, before your parents were married, was such that you would achieve this eminence. And apparently, it fits into God's plan.
Oh, I hope that's
And I'm not saying that to butter you up, not buttering you up at all. I'm loading on your shoulders, broader though they may be, a responsibility that ain't easy, because he will look you straight in the eye, Art, one day when you pass over and say, now tell me, Art, how did you really do?
I worried all the way.
What do you
I worried all the way. You know, you discussed the responsibility. I worry all the time about the responsibility. As a matter of fact, I don't think that somebody in my position should have as much influence as I can have. It worries me all the time.
I know. Well, I'm sure all the other eminent men in various fields say the same thing. And I without breaking confidences, you speak about me as having worked with 2 popes. And I did, and I've worked with very eminent men, and behind the scenes, the best of them used to shed tears over their weaknesses.
Really?
And over their fears. Yeah, and then straighten the hump in their shoulders, as they say, and march ahead.
That's it, all right. That's it, all right.
Yep.
Let me read you this from the UK News. This just came in today from the United Kingdom News.
Yeah.
It appears that some of those who have passed over to the spirit world are unwilling to be kept from the pleasures of the flesh. Listen to this. A Blackpool woman called a priest, 2 psychics, and a Mormon missionary to try to rid her of a ghost that she claimed regularly sexually attacked her. The attacks began in 1994 when she felt something climbing into bed with her. She claimed it pulled off the towel she was wearing about her head and said it was going to make love to her. Then she felt a, quote, vile, end quote, sensation, quote, like tiny needles trying to pierce my skin, end quote. What does that sound like to you?
Well, I'll tell you. Coincidentally, I'm dealing with at least 2 cases of people, one male, one female, who are assaulted, mainly in bed. And the assault is never pleasant, but it is sexual. And there's no doubt about it, there's demonic activity around them, and they've let themselves in for it.
They let themselves in for it?
Yes, they did. They made mistakes, they made errors, and they have to pay for it, and they are paying for it, thank God. And they are doing penance, and they're taking good direction, but they have to liquidate. And though it may sound funny to you, not funny, but it may sound peculiar to you, I keep saying to them, look, it's far better that you liquidate here your guilt than that you do it in purgatory.
How do you liquidate here your
By this, that if in this life you get suffering, either physical and mental suffering.
Yes.
I don't think there's such thing as physical suffering without mental suffering. But anyway, if you do that, and you have the grace of God, and you offer it up in union, but this is Catholicism, in union with the pains of Jesus, the Savior, whose pains did save us, then you do merit to liquidate the punishment due to your sins.
Penance, actual suffering, mental and physical.
That's right. That's why when you haven't got pains and aches, for instance, I've normally got a very healthy body, so if I want to do penance, I've got to fast. You have to devise means of not hurting yourself, but depriving yourself of creaturely comforts, which are perfectly legitimate. Because Christ himself said, these demons are cast out only by prayer and fasting. And it is a tradition in Christianity, and by the way, in Islam too, and in Judaism, but when I'm talking about Christians, about Catholicism in particular, it is their tradition that by fasting and by doing penance, you do get rid of demonic influence, and you do also do penance for your sins. And there's no doubt about it that if you have a horrible cancer, say a multilocal cancer, in your skull,
yes,
your brain, and you suffer the pains of it,
yes,
you can liquidate whatever guilt is due to sins, even though the sins themselves are forgiven. There's always some punishment due to it. That's the doctrine of Catholicism, and it was lost in the Reformation.
And yet, Father, people come down with these horrible cancers that give them horrible deaths all the time, and sometimes it seems like the very best people die early. Such terrible deaths.
I know. I see it every week of my life.
So then, how does that fit in?
Well, it fits in the sense that, of course, each one is different. Each person is different, and I've never found two patients reacting in the same way. But it's always a question of how they will take it, as the will of God or as simply an affliction, and they count it as a curse. And they can count it as a hidden blessing.
Father, I have interviewed many people who claim to do past life regressions.
Yes.
I have interviewed many New Age types who claim that they have had near-death experiences, that there is no such thing as hell, that nobody ever goes to hell, and that in all of their regressions and the thousands of regressions they've done, they've never encountered hell. Well, let me tell you, I've got an article here from the London Telegraph, and I want to read you a little bit about it and ask you about it. Quoting, terrifying accounts of gravely ill people who claim to have been dragged to the very gates of hell by demons are now to be studied scientifically for the first time by a British psychologist. The existence of so-called near-death experiences, or NDEs, in which dying people report having mystical sensations before being resuscitated, is now widely accepted by doctors and scientists. Their cause is unknown, but they typically involve a feeling of deep peace, followed by a sensation of floating up through a tunnel toward a bright light and into a beautiful kingdom. We've all heard that. Continuing, but now it is becoming clear that for some people, NDEs are far from blissful. Instead of a feeling of floating upwards, they report being pulled downward toward a pit inhabited by demons. The experiences of Evelyn Hazel, a London-based art historian, as she fought for life against meningitis, are typical. Quote, I had reached a critical stage in the illness, and I was hovering between life and death. I was aware of being involved in an intense and very real struggle for my life. She told the Telegraph, continuing the quote, a three-legged being, rather like the Isle of Man symbol, was pulling both my legs down to infinite depths, and I knew without any doubt that if I relaxed and I gave in, I would be dead. I believe this struggle went on for some considerable time, and eventually I managed to break away from whatever it was pulling me down. And so they're doing actual scientific studies now, not on the typical light and light beings and relatives greeting you in tunnel stories, but on people who went the other way. Hell is a real place?
Yes, a real place in the sense that it is a place that it has every place has a where. You know, if you say Peru, it's a real place. You say, where is it? It's got a real location, a real where. We do not know the exact location of hell.
Oh, I didn't mean a geographic location, Father.
Okay. No, it has a real. It's a real place. Yes, it is.
We don't know the geographic location of heaven either.
No, we don't. We don't. That's a distinct thing.
But I guess my question is, hell is as real a place as heaven?
Yes, as real. And so is purgatory. In between, it's as real. Now, it is impossible to deny the fact, because so many people have had near-death experiences, NDEs,
right,
of both kinds. It is impossible. We can't explain it exactly, but it is there. It does take place, and the similarity between the NDEs is amazing. It does point to some unity caused by one thing, one particular experience that they all have had, and the demonic also. The
big difference, Father, is that people who have had an experience like this lady don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. I mean, sure, if you go to a place of light and love and you realize that you would be in heaven if you really pass on, fine, you can talk about that.
Yeah.
But if you've been to hell, you're not really likely to...
You don't come back and tell us about it.
Not really.
Unless you come back. There have been cases of possession where damned souls do speak.
Where damned souls speak?
Yeah, do speak through the demon. But that's a question of, there are very, very peculiar cases, and they're very convoluted cases, and there are cases where people made special pacts with the demon. But they're very rare, but they do come back. At least they're allowed to talk, communicate, I should say. And it's all very mysterious, and you stay away from it as much as possible as an exorcist. But it does come through at times. And it's a very disturbing experience, and it never leaves you.
Father, I would imagine a lot of priests have, even themselves, in their lives, moments of doubt about their own...
very many.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct.
I would think, though, that doing what you have done, doing exorcisms, must enforce your own faith in a way that the average priest will never have enforced.
That's right. That's right. It does. It does. It's no guarantee that you're going to succeed completely and persevere and go to heaven, but there's no doubt about it. It does reinforce it because you're up against it. You're up against the ultimate in evil. And the central experience for any exorcist who has done exorcisms, even one exorcism, but anyway, exorcisms in general, is this: it is that memory burnt into you of total malice, and it's very hard for the normal, even hardened criminals. They love somebody, their child, or their woman, or their mother, or their country, but to come across a mind which is total malice, nothing but malice, is something appalling. As I say, what it does to you is it freezes you.
I'm sure it does.
It freezes. And that is something which, does make you immediately think of God's beauty and God's compassion and God's love, and of nice soft things, and of eternal peace and compassion and holiness and goodness. It certainly confirms all that. It sends your soul into a wild dance towards God.
Father, I would imagine you've had lots of opportunities to see young priests assist you in exorcisms, and how did they come out of that generally, first time around?
First time around, they come out shaken, and they generally, they vomit, and sometimes they're incontinent.
Mm-hmm.
They can't keep it in them.
Yes.
It's literally their threat of their lives. We laugh because it's embarrassing. In fact, the first time I assisted an exorcism in the United States, I was in bed and was called up by an exorcist who said, "Malachi, my assistant has collapsed. Please come over and help me out." It was in the Bronx. In the Bronx? Yep. And the young man had collapsed because it's very unnerving in the beginning. It's very unnerving.
This is probably a very frivolous question, but I'm curious. Having done so many exorcisms, is there any geographic sense to exorcisms in the sense of more, for example, in the large cities? I mean, there you are in New York City, is the biggest. Are there more by percentage, do you think, in the big cities than there are in the? I'm sure that it will not meet with the approval of a lot of people, but I can pinpoint various cities and various areas in the USA, really?
Canada, and in Europe where
there are a disproportionate number?
Disproportionate number, where evil of that kind flourishes. It's a funny thing. Can you name a few? I mean, we're not going to really harm anybody by naming a few. Well, I think, for instance, that there's a plethora of such things in Geneva, Switzerland. Geneva? Geneva, Switzerland. Neutral Geneva? Neutral Geneva. Yeah. I think that, and I hope that we don't get assaulted for having said this, but it does seem that Louisville, Kentucky, has a fair share, more than, say, as far as we know, Santa Fe. And then there are areas in Manhattan where I wouldn't want to live, and they're not always in Avenue A, B, and C, or in the Bronx, for that matter. There are areas, there's no doubt about that, because the presence of evil, entertained and accepted and wished and blessed and celebrated, means that you have diabolic presence, demonic presence. That's all about it. I live right over a mountain from Las Vegas. Now, Las Vegas is always generally portrayed in the media and elsewhere as the devil's playground. Yeah, I think, that's romanticizing. I never, in my whole experience, Las Vegas never stood out as a home of the devil's art. No kidding. So, in other words, it doesn't even stack up against Louisville. No, it doesn't stack up against Louisville. It doesn't stack up against Chicago. It doesn't stack up against Vancouver. Wait a minute. Vancouver, you say? Yes. Doesn't stack up at all. But it's talking about the incidence of diabolic interference. It just doesn't. So there really are. Do you have any thoughts on why there are hotspots like this? I do not know. And a few years ago, no, more than a few, back in the 70s, we tried to create a profile of the possessible person. Sure. And a profile of the places. But we found out there was no profile. No, it was purely random. Neither education, nor sex, nor faith, nor culture, nor riches, nor poorness, poverty or riches, success or failure, black, white or sky blue, pink, yellow or red or green, whatever the color of your skin was. So then possession is random. It seems to be random.
Appears to be random.
Yeah, because, listen, like you, I know very naughty people. I mean, I know people who couldn't stand the glare of publicity on their business methods.
Sure.
And I know, and I have come across ladies of the night.
Yes.
In the street. I remember once, which I'll never forget, being confronted in New York, which I'll tell you about if you want to. And I've known a few people from the mafia who certainly, were rough diamonds and were used as soldiers, but they were simply naughty people. They weren't possessed.
Big difference.
Oh, huge difference. Huge difference.
Can a prostitute go to heaven?
Sure. I remember I was coming home late at night with my brother in the pelting rain. And we were both drenched already, but we had to walk. And we met a prostitute. We were both clerics, by the way, but we were muffled up with raincoats and hats and mufflers, etc.
Sure.
And my brother, who's now gone to God, said to a woman, "Don't you not know that you're putting your eternal soul in danger?" Bill was very sententious. My brother is a good man. And she pulled up her dress and pulled out a rosary beads and a prayer book out of her stocking and said, "Father, look, I say these every day. I have 5 little bastards which priests gave me. Pray for my soul." Wow.
Wow is right.
Oh, wow is right. It really... it's
5 little bastards that priests gave me?
Yes. Yes. That's why I'm begging in the streets, prostitute.
A real problem for the church, isn't it?
It is a real problem. And inevitably, in a church that enforces celibacy as the rule, you're going to have the difficulties. And we've had a terrible rush of pedophilia.
I know.
In the dioceses of the USA and in Canada, my God, and we're not finished yet. It's still going on, and there's the organization of the Roman Catholic Church. My church has been shaken up and it hasn't settled down to anything regular yet. It hasn't made up its mind about things. And a good majority, a small majority, but a good majority of American bishops would wipe out the whole celibacy thing and allow priests to get married.
You don't agree with that, do you?
Well, I'll tell you something, Art. And I can only speak from point of view of experience. I was a chaplain to the U.S. Air Force in Turkey, actually. And I remember we used to go to the radar domes that back in the good old days of the Cold War.
Oh, yes.
That they had ringed Russia with in the Black Sea.
Yes.
And I was always driven by Air Force officers. And by the way, it was an 18-beer trip. It was so warm. We had to have 18 beers apiece to last out. But we had talks. And the men would talk to me about anything and everything. And time again they said, "Father, look, we would never discuss these matters with you if you were married, like Woody. Woody was the Protestant chaplain. He was a very decent fella." The intimacy that celibacy allows a priest, because he belongs to nobody.
Yes. Except
the parishioner.
Yes.
And if he's really faithful to it, and if he doesn't have a eunuch face, which I'll explain to you what I mean by that, then he becomes special. See, it's a funny thing about celibacy, Art. Let me give you one small word on it from a celibate. That, I mean, either you practice celibacy and it becomes a positive thing, or else you're like somebody who's wearing a chastity belt and somebody's thrown away the key and you're looking for the key. You know, there is the eunuch face.
I wish I could say I relate, Father, but I'm the kind of guy who sits and thinks, how can it be heaven without sex?
Well, actually, you know, yeah, I understand you completely, my God. Marriage is a beautiful thing and love is a beautiful thing. By the way, the most impressive thing in exorcism, the most disgusting thing, the most chilling thing in exorcism, apart from the malice, is the terrible demonic contempt for human love.
Yes.
Oh God, Art, you have no idea what it's like. I mean, the contempt.
Well, it would be the greatest enemy, wouldn't it?
Of course. But the contempt for human lovemaking and human marriage and human love, the contempt is wounding. It wounds you when you come across it.
So there's actually, in a possession, there is a lot of sexual...
Of course.
Perversion.
Of course. And there's always a basis for it in reality. And any weakness that the exorcist has in that matter is brought out. It's like an old scar opened up with a whiplash.
Well, celibacy cannot be an easy thing.
No.
Not for a mortal man, not even a priest.
No, it's not. It's not. And it's, by the way, it's not a sudden thing. It's a thing developed over a lifetime to make it a joyous thing. And not that you're a spoil sport and go around with a beatific smile. No, it's not that. It's a different thing.
Father, a couple of quick faxed questions, and then we'll go to the phones.
Yes.
All right. Here it is. While testing for exorcism qualities, has Father Martin ever found a person who was psychic themselves or had powers of telekinesis, the ability to move things physically, that was their own power that just looked like demonic abilities, or are all psychic powers demonic?
Listen, it may sound like a trite remark on my part. That is a very interesting question. And the reason is this, that there are three plateaus of reality. There's the physical reality, which we all know, space-time, the dimension in which we live and move and have our being.
Right, right.
There is the supernatural reality of God. And there is the middle plateau, whereon the demons exercise their gifts, and whereon those with psychic gifts have perceptions that baffle the rest of us. And it's a very dangerous plateau because it is very fascinating to move on that plateau, and it can involve you with demonic activity and become fascinating. Now, yes, there are people with natural gifts of psychic perception, people that know things from afar, people that know your past life, people that can enjoy telekinesis, can do that sort of thing.
All right, so there is real psychic power.
Oh, there is real psychic power, there's no doubt about that. And it's a very, very frightening thing when you meet it. And I've known young people, young boys and girls with it. And you have to teach them to how not to use it, because it disturbs people very much. And then besides, it can also lead them onto the middle plateau where they can run into trouble.
All right, part two of this is a separate question.
Yes.
People have predicted the current pope will soon die.
Yes.
After which another pope will take control.
Yes.
The new pope has been predicted by some to be a dreaded betrayer of the faith, possibly involved in the coming of the Antichrist.
Yes.
How does Father Martin view the prophecy of the 111th pope, which would be the next pope?
Frankly, Art, the older I get, the less I know about it. I have a feeling in my bones that the miseries of the Roman Catholic organization as an organization, and not simply as a spiritual church, but as an organization on the face of the earth, the miseries of that organization are just beginning, and that it is heading into a very difficult situation worldwide, and that there will be a lot of trouble in Rome itself. Now, as regards the health of the present Holy Father, it's very hard to know because he is a Polak,
a
stubborn man.
Oh, he is.
And he keeps on saying, no, despite all these prophecies, because he hears them, all these doomsayers, I'm going to see the year 2000, and I'm going to go to Mount Sinai in the year 2000, and I'm going to go to Ur of the Chaldees, where Abraham started, in the year 2000. I'm going to go to Jerusalem and Bethlehem and Calvary.
Well, if he's determined, then he may well make it.
He may well make it. Always take into account the will of God. I do not know. Frankly, in spite of my name, which is biblical, for a prophet, Malachi, I have no gift of prophecy art, so I don't know. I have a great confidence that God, who so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son to give us light and life, will take care of us. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I think miseries are going to start.
Father, you predicted that there would be an event in the spring, that there would be an event.
There could be an event if a certain sign took place, but there was no sign between the end of spring and the end of winter and the end of spring.
There are nevertheless many, many people, and I'm one of them, who feel something big is imminent.
Oh yes, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
People of all disciplines, people I interview of all disciplines, and they're all essentially saying the same thing.
It's a general feeling.
Yes,
no
it
doubt
is.
About that.
It absolutely is.
And remember what Freud told us about what the psychiatric associations in Austria were saying just prior in 1938? He said that the multiplicity of patients coming telling about dreadful dreams about barbed wire and blood.
Yes.
He said it baffled us all why they were talking like that. There is a general feeling, and knowing the future doesn't help one's peace of mind out. And I remember I had the dubious privilege of reading the text of the third secret of Fatima, which I must guard by oath from repeating, but it isn't pleasant. And the less you know about it, the better, except that there is going to be a reckoning, and that nobody existing on the face of this earth will be exempt from knowing the power from on high. They will interpret it in different ways.
That stands to reason.
According
to their beliefs.
That's right, and their culture and their bias. And there will be people who, even faced with the certainty that there is a greater power above our heads, will say. They will deny it.
They will.
They'll reject it.
The scientists, for example, will find a scientific explanation for it.
They will. You remember the famous so-called Aurora Borealis in 1938?
Well, I certainly am aware of Aurora Borealis, but not one specific.
There was a specific one which they explained by saying Aurora Borealis, but it really wasn't that at all. They all agreed it wasn't Aurora Borealis. The only one who put his finger on it was Adolf Hitler.
And he said what?
Well, he was in Berchtesgaden at the Wolf's Lair. That was his famous place when for weekends with his cabinet. And Albert Speer, who was a member of his cabinet, his architect, tells us in his second book that night they all stood on the esplanade of his villa in the Bavarian mountains, looking out to the east and seeing these extraordinary sights of light. And Hitler said, now we have to shed blood. We didn't shed blood in taking the Tsar, we didn't shed blood in taking Czechoslovakia, but now we're going to shed blood.
So he took that as a sign.
Oh, he took it, and it was a sign. Because the Virgin who told the children in Fatima in 1917 about this sign, she told them it would take place just before the Great World War. She said it will be just before they start killing millions.
Can you tell us in a way that we can read between the lines with regard to the third prophecy? Is there a timetable that you are aware of that cannot speak of that we can read between the lines on?
Yes and no. There is It is not 200 years away. It is not 50 years away. It is not 20 years away. Number one.
Well, that's...
And number two, it involves the entire world system. It's not merely one area. It's not merely one religion. It's not merely one race.
Will be apparent to all.
All, without exception. Without exception. And it will be frightening.
Okay, well, I think I've asked as much as I want to ask about that. Let us ask some questions of the audience. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Father Malachi Martin in Manhattan. Hello.
Good morning, and greetings to you, Art, from British Columbia up in Canada, and to Father Martin.
Good morning.
Father Martin,
yes.
My Irish grandmother, God bless her soul, when she
what
had
part
me...
of Ireland did she come from?
She was from County Cork.
Oh, God bless her.
Yes, I know. She used to have me on her knee, and with a twinkle in her eye, she would ask, tell me stories about the little people. And as a kid, I loved those stories. I cherished them. But, you know, I would like your take on that.
The little people?
The little people. And the other question is, Father Martin, you mentioned Vancouver as a source of the black arts. I think it's Victoria is even more so.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Do you mean the mild-mannered Canadians?
Oh, hey, man.
Art, you're a very charitable person.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways they are. Canadians, I speak to them all the time, Father, and they are very mild-mannered.
They're very courteous. There's no doubt about that.
But apparently behind that facade lies... Anyway, those little people...
The little people, well, the little people, it's the ancient Celtic myth that the fairies, the little people, the wee people, dwell in the ruined forts and castles, of which Ireland is full, by the way, ruins of chapels and churches and towers and castles and old houses, etc. But it is purely and simply a Celtic myth. But around it they have woven an entire literature.
I wonder, Father, if today's little people in America and the world that are called greys, aliens, are the same sort of mythological creatures that were in Ireland.
I've always wondered the same thing, Art, and I have no answer to it at all. I have no answer to it at all. There is a greater myth, or not myth, but mystery in Ireland, the Banshee. Did you ever hear of the Banshee?
I've never heard of I've heard of a Banshee.
Is this certain families, certain old Celtic families still existing in Ireland, when a prominent member is dying or dead, this woman is heard crying. And it's too frequent a happening to deny it. We don't know what it is. I had a very, very irate uncle on my mother's side who became an atheist, by the way. And when I brought this up to him, he said, "No, that's the female hair in heat." But it wasn't. It's too established the fact that there are families and there's this peculiar wailing and olagoning, as they say in Gaelic, at the death of a member.
Tell you a pretty strange story, Father. In Miami, it broke the day before yesterday. A woman dressed entirely in black with no identification whatsoever fell from the sky. The authorities have checked with airlines, with flight plans that have been filed, blah, blah, blah. No identification on the woman. They have no idea who she is. She literally fell from the sky, hit a picket fence, was cut in two.
Good God.
And they still have no idea whatsoever what that could be all about. Signs, strange signs from the sky.
Strange signs, but there are strange things happening all over the place, Art, at the present moment. No
Paducah, Kentucky, a 14-year-old walks in and kills 3 classmates, wounds 6 others, and gives only as an explanation, those who know him, that he was angry at us, at society.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
You know, you see statistics today indicating that crime, violent crime, is down. But the very nature of crime has utterly changed. At one time, Father, when one person would take the life of another, there usually was a reason. Man catches a wife in bed with somebody else,
or robbery,
bad business deal, robbery, whatever, but there was a motive. Today's crime, though maybe less, is totally indecipherable.
Totally, you're quite right. That's the very word, indecipherable. It's an extraordinary turn of events. Now, look, as far as I know, it means the presence of a more active evil for evil's sake.
Is there a war between heaven and hell that is constantly going on, or is it...
And now it's acute.
Now it's acute.
Now it's very acute, yeah.
Father, a war between heaven and hell. There have been recent movies about it, and so I hate to have to draw my knowledge of this from motion pictures.
Well, why not?
But there was... have you seen a movie called Prophecy?
Yes, I have.
Christopher Walken?
Yes, right.
Boy, he sure is a perfectly possessed person on screen, isn't he? It in those motion pictures depicts an actual war between heaven and hell, an escalating war between heaven and hell.
Right.
The fallen angels. When you see something like that, is that anything like you envision to be going on, you know, minus the Hollywood special effects?
It is, yes. But the where you find that battle raging is in the souls and lives of living people. And you find it raging and hurting and injuring and killing.
The people you deal with.
Yeah, you do. And terrible things happen. Humanly terrible things happen to people who take the other side, who really serve evil and hurt others. And it spreads from generation to generation. It's a terrible battle. And it goes on all day and goes on right through the whole week and the whole year. And there's no getting away from it. And it's getting much more acute today than it ever was before, Art.
Well, maybe this is a dumb question, but is there any possibility that that war could ever become an all-out war, one in which the right side wouldn't win, where Earth could be lost?
I think it can get to the point that Earth can be lost for a while. It will be reclaimed. But I think that there's a sunset is creeping over the whole human thing.
Yes.
At the present moment. And it's a gray sludge. And it's slowly but surely extinguishing all love. The world is really getting very cold.
And I think we're now getting back toward that which you really can't fully talk about.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I catch on quickly. All right, Father, a lot of people on the phone lines, and I've really got to get to them. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Father Malachi Martin. Hello, where are you, please?
Yes, this is Bruce from Chicago.
Hi, Bruce.
Good morning. It's an honor to talk to Father Martin. He's my favorite guest.
Hi, Bruce.
My question was along the lines of what you were just talking about the last moments.
Yes.
Father Martin's last appearance on the program, he talked about, Art brought up the lights in Phoenix, and
yes.
Father said that if that in fact was the case, something awesome and most fearful would be happening, and the time frame I interpreted from that was somewhere out to spring of '98, and I wonder if he could specifically elaborate on the time frame if he can't go into detail.
Actually, I don't feel happy at all about 98, the moment we leave winter and start into spring. I don't feel happy at all about it.
Can you...
I simply think that things are spiraling in such a way that we're going to undergo severe disturbances, to put it mildly, nationally and internationally. I think that if I were to speak awfully frankly, I think a lot of people are going to die violently.
Oh boy.
I think we're coming to a very bad point. A very bad point. I think. I can't interpret it any other way.
All right, I don't even want to ask anymore. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Father Malachi Martin. Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, where are you, please?
Close to Vancouver.
Yes, Vancouver.
Again.
We draw you forth.
Yes, you have.
God bless you, Vancouver.
Art, I appreciate your ability to sensitively talk to the variety of people that you talk to. It's amazing to me. And Father Malachi, you're a very special person. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
That's being very disruptive to me. A little while ago, I was leafing through some very old photographs with my family. I came across two pictures that were taken, it looked like a few minutes apart.
Yes.
My mother, another woman, and a young child.
Yes.
In front of a fence with a house in the background. The first picture, they were all looking very sullen, very glum, and in the foreground, in front of my mom, there was a creature that you could kind of see through it. It almost looks like double exposure, except that there's no reason. This picture's too old and genuine.
Yes.
But the creature looks about 4 feet tall, a little hunched over, black kind of shawl, very kind of like a big nose, very, very evil looking. And I'm concerned that this could be demonic, and I'm concerned about the intergenerational kind of effect that can have on. And if
Was there any trouble?
Picture?
Was there any trouble? Have you got the picture yet?
I have got the picture. I don't even show it to people because it makes my hair stand on end.
Don't. Put it in an envelope and write the. Are you a Catholic at all?
I'm not Catholic.
You're Christian?
I am Christian.
Well, then take an envelope, put the photograph in it, and put a notice on it saying "Do not open," and date it and sign it, and write the name of Jesus across the front of it, and put it away.
Okay, do not open, and then write
the name of Jesus and put it away in a strong box somewhere. It has a purpose.
It has a purpose.
I don't know what the purpose is.
Is that a clear enough instruction?
It is. How about if I send it to you and you could put it in a strong box? I don't even want it.
Well, if that is to be what's happened to it, please do.
Okay.
That is to be the way it's done.
Okay.
Do.
But you, sir, really should accept responsibility as guardian of your own.
I've had it up to now.
East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Father Malachi Martin. Good morning.
Hello.
Where are you, please?
My name is Alex, and I'm calling from El Paso, Texas.
Yes, Alex.
Okay.
Yes, Father Martin. I have a feeling that a good friend of mine, his son, I think, may be possessed. And what he does is he draws very, very strange drawings on his wall, and he talks to them. He draws very, very ugly pictures of certain strange things. And now I may sound like kind of crazy by saying this.
No, you don't sound crazy at all. What age is the boy?
He's about 10. And you know, when kids are about 10, you know how they have like invisible play friends and stuff like that. But I have a strange feeling that God is telling me to, like, kind of help this boy.
Yes,
and I don't really know whether to get some sort of help on exorcism or anything like that.
Yeah, I do not know the bishop down there. If there's an official exorcist in that diocese of El Paso, in which El Paso is, tell me, do you know anything else about the boy?
He bends himself kind of strange.
Does he speak about a companion?
Well, he tells me that he's talking to the person on the wall. Yeah. And he draws these figures.
In other words, he could have a familiar, as they call it.
I'm not too sure about a familiar, but...
Yeah, well, they call it a familiar. But at this distance, it's impossible to say. But the peculiar drawing is funny. Does his father ever bring him to a psychologist to just...
No, actually the father just kind of like blows it off and says, "Hey, it's just my son doing strange things, But
oh, gee whiz, that's a bit
I
reckless.
kind of have a feeling that maybe I should get someone, or if not myself, get someone to exorcise him. So where would I
Well, you have to apply to the local diocese.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this distance, it's the jurisdiction of the bishop in which El Paso is. I don't know what diocese El Paso is in. It's in a Texan diocese, Texas diocese. I don't know which one. But then you go to the chancery and ask who is the exorcist in that diocese.
Would it be possible?
If the father agrees, because the father must agree.
So there you are. Father, what chance in this modern day and age in America does somebody have of going to a diocese and getting an affirmative answer that there is an exorcist?
Very, well, put in percentiles, about 33%.
33%.
About a third. It's very low.
And if they don't get satisfaction, then what?
Wow. If they don't get satisfaction...
Yeah, if they're laughed off or shrugged off or whatever.
Yeah. The reason I groan is that I know so many cases of that. I know so many cases where they're laughed off or brushed off or told to go away or simply told there's no... go to a psychiatrist, and that's what has happened within the church organization of my Roman Catholic Church. If our friend who's speaking to us from El Paso, he should pray about it, because prayer can obtain what this boy needs, but I have no solution. At this distance, Art, I have no solution. I see the poignancy of it all, and the danger, and that father is very feckless.
Father, could you become a bishop?
Of course I could.
If you were to become a bishop with the power attendant,
yes,
what would you try to change? What would you try to do with that increased responsibility?
I would try and organize the clerical reaction to possession and obsession, because these are factors that are growing in every diocese I know in the United States.
So we should not be offering less to people like that man who called, but more.
No, on the contrary. He should be aided immediately. There should be a mechanism in each diocese that aids such a thing, takes it in, studies it, gets to the boy, gets to the father. But there isn't, and that's the triumph of Luciferianism, the clergy themselves.
As the grayness descends.
Yeah, and the terrible thing is that you won't find a belief in it all amongst many bishops and many priests.
Mm-hmm. Does the fact that you just said that make it less likely that you would become a bishop?
No, it doesn't. It depends on the will of those who make bishops. But anyway, it is pathetic, Art. It really is pathetic. Even in this Archdiocese of New York, there are people who need attention, but they don't get it. Because there's just too much to be done.
I understand. First time caller line, you're on the air with Father Malachi Martin in Manhattan. Hello.
Okay, my name is Keith.
Yes, Keith.
Yes, Keith.
I'm calling from Carbondale, Illinois.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just calling in concern with something that you talked about earlier in the show, the lady named Harlot.
Oh, yes.
And I was just thinking about it. I do a paper route at night, and I just got off of it to try to get a hold of you. And you seem kind of concerned, and it hit me that most likely the daughter would be in heaven. And the reason I say this is because if the woman desired her to be in hell with her, and hell is supposed to be a damnation,
yes,
then she wouldn't be able to have that with her. I mean, it would be like
but sir, she said, if you listened carefully to that program, she didn't say that she willed her to be in hell with her. She said she took steps before her daughter was killed to ensure that she would be in hell with her.
It's as if she desired that to be.
Of course.
It was beyond desire. She said she took steps.
Right, and what I'm saying is that she would be getting one of her desires fulfilled if God were to enact the child to damnation.
Yes, but you really are missing something, though. She actually took steps, and what I asked Father Martin a while ago was whether, and I have no idea what those steps are, but whether it would be possible that in fact she could have done that, and the answer was yes.
It's feasible. It's feasible. The case, it's an extraordinary thing. The genuine Luciferians and Satanists you meet, they look forward to hell.
Well, Father, we've done it again. We're flat out of time.
I know. The time is the one thing we capitalists can't buy us. Listen, I want to thank you for giving me the chance to talk to you and to your audience.
Father, thank you, and we will do this, of course, again. So it's not goodbye, just till next time.